100 years ago, a group of 9 real estate salespeople came together to bring standards, respect, and public trust to an emerging profession and to help more York Countyans achieve the dream of homeownership. For the past 100 years, the Realtors Association of York and Adams Counties has been an integral part of our members' success. From humble beginnings to growing today to over 1,300 Realtor members and the 8th largest association in Pennsylvania, the relentless spirit of RAYAC has stayed the same. Whether our members are helping people move down the street or move from halfway across the country, our mission has always led others home. Let's take a look back at the association highlights as we honor our past. The Roaring '20s brought on many changes throughout our country. In the early 1900s, real estate in York County had often been conducted as a side job, with a home sale price in Pennsylvania averaging $4,866. On April 14, 1923, a historic moment happened where 9 real estate salespeople gathered to charter the York Real Estate Board. Dues were only about $1 per year. Soon after, the association bylaws were formed and are the shoulders in which our association exists today. To promote friendship and cooperation among realtors, secure uniformity in practice, maintain standards of business ethics prescribed by the National Association of Realtors, and dignify the name Realtor. Always ahead of its time, the York Real Estate Board was chartered 6 years before real estate licensing was established by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Important to note, at this time in our history, only brokers could join as Realtor members, not individual salespersons. In the 1950s, Elvis Presley helped start a musical sound called rock and roll that had teens shaking a leg and many parents worried. The economy was looking up. The median price of a home doubled to $6,900, and the membership numbers increased to 39. In 1951, the Landlord and Tenant Act was signed into law, and that same year, the Realty Transfer Tax Act, which allowed the Commonwealth to impose a tax of 1% on the value of property being transferred. Although this act was only supposed to be in effect for 2 years, it is still with us today. In 1956, the York Real Estate Board jurisdiction changed to include parts of Adams County. In the 60s, Beatlemania swept the nation. Radical changes happened all around the country as the Vietnam War led the era with protesting and the assassination of President Kennedy. In 1965, the York Real Estate Board changed its name to the York Board of Realtors. In March of 1965, RAYAC's longest active consecutive member, Rick Smith, joined the association.
Our prices back then, it was very common for me to sell $8,000 houses. They're semi-detached or row houses in the city. And of course, that was pretty much what I was selling. In fact, the first year in the business, I made $3,800, not $38,000, $3,800. And I loved selling real estate, but I was really poor at it. And I thought it was all my money, and I spent all the money whenever I had to pay taxes, and then I had money left for taxes. So I made all the mistakes that you're supposed to make along the way, I guess. But my point is, I learned that there were very valuable lessons along the way. But even back then, the interest rates were still very reasonable, 6%. You know, first house I bought, I paid 6% interest for the mortgage. I thought that was pretty daggone good. I like helping people. I like being able to take care of people and service people. And if you do that, your commission will come. You don't have to count a commission. You take care of people, they'll take care of you. The business will take care of you.
In 1966, Hannah Snyder was installed as the association's first female president.
And one thing that changed, for sure, from the standpoint of women in the business, that was a wonderful thing. Once women became more involved with the business, things got a lot better. The one thing that did happen back then, a lot of people weren't aware of it. They would not take a woman's income into consideration. And all of a sudden, women's incomes had to be counted. So our income went up substantially, and it was just wonderful to have that change, you know.
In 1968, the Fair Housing Act was signed into law. The Fair Housing Act prohibited discrimination concerning the sale, rental, and financing of housing based on race, religion, national origin, or sex. Intended as a follow-up to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the bill was the subject of a contentious debate in the Senate, but was passed quickly by the House of Representatives in the days after the assassination of civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. The Fair Housing Act stands as the final great legislative achievement of the Civil Rights era. In 1969, RPAC, the Realtors Political Action Committee, was formed to pool resources, money, and organize its distribution to those candidates who support realtor issues and private property rights on a federal level. Let's take a closer look at how advocacy has evolved at the association.
I think advocacy is extremely important to the association. For many years, I served as the federal political coordinator. You know, I always looked at as politics as something that really never had an effect on our association. My eyes were open to, how important being involved in politics is and the effect that it has on, our association, our membership, and how we conduct our business.
I often like to say that if real estate is your profession, politics is your business, because everything that happens down in Washington, D.C., at the federal level, at our General Assembly in Harrisburg, as well as in our 106 municipalities in York and Adams counties, all those different legislation pieces have an impact on the real estate industry. The association acts as that watchdog to ensure that our private property rights are being upheld at all times.
Changes kept on coming in the 70s, with bell-bottom pants and discos sweeping the nation.
My average sale at that time was $13,000. Also at that time, we represented, as realtors or as brokers and sales associates, we represented only the seller. The buyer really had no representation.
In 1973, the Hanover-Adams Board of Realtors was charted. The York Board of Realtors changed their name to the York County Board of Realtors and released territory to the new Hanover-Adams Board of Realtors. The housing market slowed in 1974 with the onset of a recession and 20% interest rates. In 1979, another crisis hit South Central Pennsylvania.
Was on March 28, 1979, there was a nuclear meltdown accident at 3 Mile Island. This put the real estate business in a bit of a turmoil. As a matter of fact, the whole county. We didn't know if we were all going to die of nuclear poisoning or if there was no danger. We just didn't know. A lot of people packed their cars, put the kids in the back, went to the bank, withdrew all their money and left town. And they didn't know when they were coming back, if ever. We didn't really have a Dr. Fauci then to tell us what to do. So WGAL TV came to my office and they wanted to do a video of what I thought the long-term effect would be of a nuclear radiation in York County to the real estate market. Well, I declined the interview. I didn't want to be the person to have all that bad news. Eventually, everything did calm down, but it took a long time for people to want to move anywhere near 3 Mile Island.
In the 1980s, MTV, Michael Jackson, Madonna, The Boss dominated the airways. Along with it came high interest rates, peaking at 19%.
No one was getting any kind of loans approved because the rates were so high and people didn't qualify. So we did what were referred to then as wraparounds. And due on sale clauses were very limited at that time. So some of those lasted for 3 to 5 years. But then with the due on sale clause, you couldn't do that anymore. And by the time I was 5 years in the business, things had started coming down. And everybody said when I started, we'll never see single-digit rates. Well, we have seen single-digit rates, and here we are still in single digits in the midst of a crisis again.
That was a crisis. Trying to sell real estate at 18% interest. We have a lot of people get all upset because the interest rates went up 2 or 3%. Well, back then I would sell a house on a Monday morning and by Friday the interest rates would be up, and they didn't lock in the interest rates back then. So what happened is by the time they would qualify on Monday, but by Friday the interest rates were so high they didn't qualify any longer.
Becoming president in 1982 was a big, big opportunity for me, and it gave me the opportunity to meet everybody in the business. I mean, I used to hold meetings, and I'm telling you, we had free lunches, board meetings every month, and it was free lunch. And out of 200 members, 182 attended every month. Okay, and during 1982, it was some of them, it was the best meal they got. Okay, for the week.
1982 marked the year the association became known as an all-realtor board, marking a new opportunity for all licensees to become active, vote, and hold office, including the presidency.
You were a realtor associate, okay, prior to the all-realtor vote. As soon as we voted that's when you really saw people who were associates, licensees who weren't brokers. That's when you really saw a huge increase in participation, you know, because a realtor associate could not serve. They didn't have the opportunity, you know. They weren't on the board of directors. Well, imagine trying to get a board of directors group together today if you could only have brokers who are heads of companies, or basically, or broker of record. You couldn't do it, you know, because the business has just changed that much.
After the all-realtor vote, the RAYAC membership grew to about 700 by the end of 1989, and the median home sale price rose to $86,000. In 1985, a new era for the association leadership was ushered in with the hiring of Steve Snell as the executive officer of the association, serving in this position for 30 years.
The early 80s were really rough on real estate. Mortgage rates were double-digit. And we were still in 1985 recovering from that, although the market was getting stronger. And of course, it was a very different world. There was very little technology involved in what we were doing back then.
The 90s is often remembered as a decade of relative peace and prosperity. The rise of the internet ushered in a radical new era of communication, business, and entertainment. During this time period, the housing market values continued to grow, surpassing the 100,000 mark in York County, and the association membership reached over 800. In 1992, the first mandatory continuing education classes were held in Pennsylvania for real estate licensees, and 14 hours of CE needed to be obtained to renew your license for the first time in 1994. This cycle continues biennially. The adoption of CE in Pennsylvania catapulted the association to launch our real estate school, a pillar in the standards of real estate education today. In 1993, York County Board of Realtors changed its name to York County Association of Realtors. Like many homeowners who experience growth in their family, the association needed a new home.
Well, the biggest memorable moment from when I was president in 1994 was we were located our association office down on South Duke Street. And the year I was president, we started looking to upgrade our facilities. And we upgraded from South Duke Street to West Philadelphia Street. And in essence, that became a rolling stone that got us here to our lowly facility on Smile Way and helped us enlarge our facilities to help different aspects of our industry, such as classes and teaching and things like that.
Along with a new building, more change was on the horizon in 1997 when the York County Association of Realtors and the Hanover Adams Board of Realtors merged to become the Realtors Association of York and Adams Counties.
Yeah, it was an interesting scenario because we felt as we were going through our changes in MLS that we really needed to reach out to Hanover Adams on the MLS front. And that was really all that we intended, was to say, you know, we have some dead areas in between. I mean, I could blame the whole thing on Spring Grove, which was like a no man's land. Nobody was able to properly market properties there because there were two separate systems that didn't really interrelate. But when we began discussions with the leadership of the Hanover Adams County Association, it was clear that they wanted much more than that they were really the driving force to say, let's merge the whole association.
So in 1997, I was the president of the MLS for the Hanover Adams Association of Realtors. And we made a determination at that point to join the York County Association of Realtors to create RAYAC. And the reasons that we did that were manyfold, actually. At the time, we were fine as a small independent association and MLS. However, we were looking ahead to the future and what was happening around us. There were a lot of mergers that were happening at that point in time, both across the state and across the country. And we were getting recommendations from PAR that we should really look at merging. At the same time, York had indicated interest in merging with Hanover Adams. And, you know, looking at the long term and the bigger picture and the greater good for all our membership, thankfully the vote went through, and it was probably the best decision that we could have made at the time. And I think had we not done it then, we would have done it at some point.
In 1998, RAYAC went to a fully online MLS system. Let's take a quick look back at the evolution of the MLS up to this point.
Multi-list system consisted of 5x8 cards, and once a week an agent or a secretary from the office would go into the office on South Duke Street and collect the latest 5x8 cards and then come back and file them in a box in the office. And if you wanted to know something about what was going on in the market, you went to that box and searched through it.
We thought it was a really big deal when a multi-list book came out. Every 2 weeks we got a new book. So the old book was thrown away, and then the new book had all the new listings in it.
One of the things that I think we should be very proud of is that we were, if not the first, certainly one of the first to jettison the book. We said it's time to move into a more up-to-date current market. So we used a system that was called BARIS, Board of Realtor Information Systems, which actually gave us online pictures. We could print thermal versions of that on a special printer. We maintained all the terminals in the individual offices. This was pre-PC. So they were dumb terminals. All they could really do was receive. They couldn't really manipulate. So huge change in MLS over the years.
In 1999, seller's disclosure law was enacted in Pennsylvania. 1999 also saw the introduction of consumer notice and buyer agency in Pennsylvania.
Oh, thank God for seller's property disclosure. You know, it used to be you were a sitting duck as a broker, you know, and it was like your word against theirs. And well, they didn't tell us. Well, I think it falls under you should have known. What, I should have known that they did damage to the property and covered it up? No, how am I supposed to know that? Okay, you know, so it really changed that arena a lot.
I started doing seller's disclosures long before the industry did. And the reason for that, I knew I wanted to be in this business forever. And interestingly enough, we did have sellers back then that would say, we'd go through the house and the seller would say, now Rick, I have to tell you, I get water in this basement, but I don't want you telling anyone. I don't want you saying anything. And I knew for sure that I was going to set the stage for me or my seller or me and myself being the bad guy, because 6 weeks later after it rained, the buyer would find out there was water in the basement. So I learned a long time ago, I'm not going to go down with that ship. I'm not going to do that.
We've actually been on the cutting edge of a lot of things over the years. We were one of the first associations in the state that thought it was important to have a seller disclosure. 2 years later, seller disclosure becomes mandatory statewide.
The decade of the 2000s is one of both highs and lows for our country and the housing market.
When I was president in 2000, a lot of things stand out to me. Most of you don't remember Y2K, but that was interesting. We thought our whole computer system would crash. The internet had started to become a very important part of our business, and not everybody embraced that change. Interesting and challenging things I had to do as president was go to a DR brokers meeting, provide the opportunity for brokers to allow the information or listings of other brokers to be placed on their website. It was very, very, very controversial. And we went in and made the presentation. After a long conversation, a lot of discussion, the motion passed, and there we are.
IDX obviously changed the world, all right, in terms of us not being having our listings under lock and key, all right, and putting them out to the world. But it really helped the business, people thinking that was a really good thing, and it was. But it helped the business a lot differently than some people think about, because it caused our focus as representatives of sellers and buyers to shift and bring more value to the transaction. The fact that we, had the listings right here, well, a lot of us really thought that was our value. Well, anybody could have done that. You didn't have to, but we had to better service our clients and customers to reestablish the rest of the value we brought, which was great transaction managers, great marketers, great personal representatives in negotiation. And that really positively changed the business a lot. Even though those of us who were able to hold the listings right here for a long time, we liked that. If we hadn't done that, if that hadn't happened, I don't know that we would be what we are today.
The boom and bust of the dot-com economy was the root cause of the first recession of the decade, which was worsened by devastating terrorist attacks of 9/11, resulting in turmoil across the country. The answer to coming out of this recession was housing. The country and our community saw an increase in new home construction and rising housing prices. From 2002 through 2006, York County issued approximately 2,400 new building permits per year, the largest in its history. The median sold price soared from $110,000 in 2001 to $174,900 by 2007. With the rise in new home construction and housing prices, the RAYAC membership peaked at 1,361 primary Realtor members. The rise in membership was a catalyst for the association to move on up to 901 Smile Way, our building of today.
I have a lot of love for the building. I was here when we got the shovels out and started this building. And I did start out when I started out, we were in the city of York. And but I came here and it was great, and they didn't give me a shovel, but I did swipe one afterwards.
During this same time period, subprime lenders began offering cheap credit, and lax lending standards fueled the housing bubble. When the housing bubble burst, the banks were left holding trillions of dollars of worthless investments in subprime mortgages. The Great Recession that followed cost many their jobs, their savings, and their homes.
I think the biggest thing during my presidency in 2009 was giving people hope and inspiration, because it was right after the market crashed, and I had already been in an ugly market, so I could have a vision that it will get better again. And so every article that I had to write for The Connection, I tried to make it helpful, inspirational. I had numerous phone calls after that particular article saying, "Thank you for giving us hope."
Over the years, ever since I became a realtor, it was always this talk of realtors are going to be eliminated. They have this technology that's going to make what we do obsolete. And that hasn't happened. Actually, the change is that the community needs us way more than when I started. And when I started, it was a really rough time. 2009, the market had just tanked, foreclosures, short sales. They needed us then, and they still need us now.
When I was president in 2011, we still had a 3-page real estate contract. So transitioning from that 3-page agreement to our current PAR agreement, which encompasses 14 pages, basically assembled all of the addendums in our 3-page contract together into one hopefully understandable agreement that we can use to help our clients through the purchase of a new home.
It was laborious. We had a whole committee that worked on forms, and they agonized over every little period and comma. I had a great chair of that committee who stuck with it for many, many years, past President Nancy Fox. And a lot of involvement was required from legal counsel. So Bill Hast, all those years, was our solicitor, and he was very much involved in the production of the forms. And it was somewhat traumatic to make the decision to go with PAR forms, because this was, I guess, similar to the MLS system when you merged since I left, and that is, there's a certain pride of authorship, you know, that you're doing it, you have control, and it meets your specific needs and desires. So moving away from that to adopting something that was statewide certainly freed up a lot of volunteer time, but it required some giving up of control.
It's amazing when I think about how I did a transaction with carbon paper and trying to fix things, and now we just type it in our computer and voila, it comes out perfect.
As a result of the Great Recession, we experienced 5 straight years of year-over-year of housing price decline, with the median home sale price dropping to $141,107, and the RAYAC membership fell to 905. But in 2013, things began to turn the corner and become happier.
When I was president in 2014, what we did, it wasn't phenomenal to some people, but it sure was to me, because we did a happy video where we went from East York all the way to Gettysburg and had every realtor, every company, everyone was involved singing and dancing, and we just had a blast. It was the last year of Steve Snell being here that I was president. He had no idea that he was going out with a bang like that, because we had a blast.
In 2015, RAYAC ushered in a new era of leadership. Steve Snell, who served as the association's executive officer for 30 years, retired, and Shauna Taroso, who served as RAYAC's government affairs director for the prior 10 years, was hired to serve as the new CEO. Within her first month on the job, the association started discussions of the Bright MLS merger.
One of the biggest changes that the association went through was our transition from owning and operating our own MLS to moving towards a much more regionalized Bright MLS. And I think at that time when we were going through that MLS merger, it really showed the power of this association and how much our members cared. And I think our voices were heard. And obviously the original transition over to Bright MLS was not as smooth or as easygoing as any of us would have liked. But that really showed the resiliency of this membership, who came together, created task force, gave feedback to say, these are the issues that we're having and here's how we need to fix it. And I truly believe that because RAYAC was a leader in this regard, it has done substantially great efforts to make Bright MLS what it is today, which I think all of you will agree is a great tool and a powerful tool for all of our members to utilize and hopefully continue to grow in the future.
I had the pleasure of being the president when we had to vote on the MLS. It was, I remember when it all transpired, it was maybe a month or two before I was going to be president that these conversations began to happen. And all I could remember thinking was, wow, as soon as I become president, the first thing that I'm gonna have to do is get rid of the MLS for everybody, right? We did have to tread lightly. There were a lot of fears. It was a big change, but we had a lot of other different associations involved. So we all had to come together, figure out what was right, not only for the real estate community as a whole, but also for our association. How did it affect our members moving forward?
I think the membership doesn't realize how much time and effort we put into that, and how many times we met with Lancaster Association, Harrisburg, Lebanon, how many trips we went down to Maryland to figure out, is this the best thing for us? How do we go about it?
I had the pleasure of being the president of the association when we converted over to Bright MLS. It was a very challenging year, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I actually was able to talk to many members that I may not have been able to talk to before and help to solve the challenges through focus groups and a lot of meetings.
It was a very good decision. They've held up to the promises. Not to say that we didn't have bumps and bruises. Of course, the 2.0 version is always going to be better than the initial version, but I think they got some things right. And yeah, I actually think that we'll probably look to expand a little bit more. I welcome that.
By 2018, the housing market was proving to be strong, driven by historically low interest rates and high buyer demand. Just a short time later, the whole world stopped turning with the arrival of a global pandemic.
So I had the opportunity to serve as the president in the pandemic times, and that will forever go down as one of the most interesting time periods of my life. I can still remember the meeting we had right before everything was shut down, where we were discussing, what happens if we have to cancel events? What happens if we have to cancel classes? What happens with the staff if they have to work from home? And all of these things that were, basically these conversation starters of, even before things got shut down. And I remember leaving that meeting and thinking, why? Like, seriously? Like, we just, like, this is just happening to us. It was bizarre. And then, any of us that were in the industry at that time remember the weeks that followed and all of the craziness and turmoil that came out of it, because real estate was shut down and we were trying to get back to work and we were trying to fight. We were trying to do all of these things. But what I will say about that time, even though it was super crazy and there was a lot happening, I couldn't have been more proud to have been a realtor at that time, to be a member of this association, to be a member of PAR, because I don't know that our members even truly realize the amount of people, time, energy, effort that was put into fighting on our behalf to get us back to work. From the state side, from the local side, we were meeting daily sometimes to plan, to brainstorm, to get updates, to hear the things that were happening. And it was just an amazing time to be a realtor and be a part of the leadership of this association, because it was a great exercise in teamwork and just being with other people who were super passionate about this industry and making sure that we were doing everything that we could to get our members back to work.
I was president in 2021, and what I remember most is COVID. Learning how to do Zoom meetings, having numerous Zoom meetings every week with our state representatives, being on national calls, on PAR calls, on local calls, and figuring out how we, as 1 out of 50 states, could become essential employees again.
I would say really the way that COVID kind of hit and impacted the industry, how we had a shortened supply because we couldn't sell properties, and then the big rush back into everyone wanting to buy a home and there not being enough homes, and the amount of competition there was. I'd never seen anything like that before. And we're still kind of dealing with that now.
COVID times were a game changer for us and how we operated as an association. And it was interesting because, we went through our bylaws and looked at our bylaws and realized, all of these things that needed to be updated so that we could continue to do business the way that we should seamlessly. And so, we did the bylaws update in 2021 as a result of the pandemic, and I believe for the future of our association, that was the best possible thing we could have done.
Like every other challenge, RAYAC came out a stronger organization. After the pandemic, housing demand soared in both. York and Adams County hit their highest median home sale price ever in 2022 at $245,000 and $275,000 respectively. The association today has over 1,300 primary and secondary Realtor members. But let's have some fun and hear more from the association's past leaders.
So the biggest changes I've seen since I've become a member in 1984. Have there been any? Yeah, I guess there's been one or two. Technology, number one.
There were no computers when I started. I can't even hardly, I don't feel that old.
When I first started in this business, we didn't have lock boxes, anything. You spent one day picking up all the keys, and then most times you had to have them back that same day. So you spent the day before picking them up, the next day showings, and then dropping them off as quickly as possible, because most offices didn't have multiple keys.
It was an old mechanical lockbox. When we had changes, which we did a number of times for security reasons, where keys which were actual keys, were lost, and we had to have all of the lock boxes, thousands of them, brought into a central location so we could actually put new lids on them for security reasons.
Almost pre-approved people ourselves. We ran their credit report, we did the spreadsheet on their debts and their income, and we said, okay, I think you should, you can buy a house and let's get you to a lender. And now it's rare that an agent will talk to a buyer about their finances.
And I actually remember when fax machines became a thing, and it was awesome that you could fax a contract back and forth, even though by the end of it, it was ridiculous because you couldn't even read it anymore.
The most important changes that I've seen, I'll give you 3 letters, GPS. Get in that car, I do not need an atlas anymore, I can put in an address, and I am never lost, no more U-turns.
Facebook has a major presence now versus how it was in 2010 when I first started. It was just basically a blurb. Now it is very commanding, both for advertising purposes and for marketing, absolutely.
We like to say in real estate that we just don't sell homes, we sell communities.
Realtors are so important to our community because what's a community made of? I mean, part of any community is housing, and we're central to that.
Real estate is really the best way to build wealth, and if you really talk to anybody that's any financial guy or something like that, the largest investment you make is in real estate, and it helps the wealth. Also, let's look at what happens when home ownership goes up. You have much nicer neighborhoods. You have people have pride in their properties. They take care of their stuff. So I think it's really, really important that we stay focused and do what we can to help people achieve that home ownership.
They are the pulse of what is going on. We tend to know which restaurants are coming in. We tend to know which shopping centers are going out.
Realtors are so good for our community because they're the experts. We're the experts. We know what's going on with home sales, how to navigate the different changes throughout the industry.
We are the connectors. We're the connectors of people and people. We're the connectors of people in real estate. We're the connectors of people and information. And I think it's important for us to remember that as the central point of our doing business. It is not our job to have all of the information, but it is our job to be connected with all of the people who have the information that our clients need.
Realtors also donate their time. If I look at a lot of our membership, a lot of our membership's involved in PTAs and PTOs and their churches and giving back. So I think realtors are, in a way, part of the fabric of the community.
When we sell a home, it's a domino effect. The domino effect is that when people buy homes, they go out and buy new drapes, new linens, new appliances, flooring, things like that. And all that normally is done within our community. So it helps our community stay vibrant. It helps us keep jobs in our community and keeps York on the map as a great place to live.
There is a joke in this industry that you're not just a realtor, you're also a therapist. And if you think about it, purchasing property is one of the most emotionally charged times of your life. And there are the reasons behind purchasing a property or selling a property can be tied to a lot of really happy moments. So there are all these great happy moments that are evolved around the purchase of a property. Unfortunately, there are also many sad moments associated with the sale and or purchase of a property too. Big life changes that maybe you weren't prepared for, like a divorce, like a death in the family, which causes you to have to sell a home. And the realtor is there through all of that, being that shoulder to listen and to cry on in some cases. They are there to provide you with good guidance and advice. But when you think about the value of a realtor member, one of the things I think doesn't get enough credit is how that real human being, that real human touch that they are bringing to that process and how many lives they are impacting by being there for those most emotionally charged times in their entire lives.
Realtors are important to our community because we volunteer and give back.
RAYAC also took the lead, the first in our community here in York and Adams counties, for the homeless outreach event. Having lived in other locations throughout the country and seeing the homeless populations in dire need, it was a huge step for RAYAC to step forward and coalesce different entities: housing, food, medical, employment opportunities, transportation issues, to get them all combined together so that we can provide resources for the populations that need assistance.
In 2005, we chartered the RAYAC Foundation, which is our 501c3 sister foundation nonprofit, where we raise funds for the community, and then we do a grant process where we give back thousands and thousands of dollars every single year to housing-related charities in both York and Adams counties. And that collective impact that we have had due to the foundation over these past 18 years is immeasurable. The lives that we have changed because of the money that we have given to this community to make it a great place to live, work, and play for everyone in York and Adams counties.
Our involvement in doing some habitat houses, the very first of those was a habitat house that we underwrote and helped build in Spring Grove. The dedication, the National Association of Realtors president came to that dedication, and of course we did many more after that.
I made a personal commitment to raise $50,000 to build a Habitat for Humanity house. And that just became like a real goal for me. So I went and visited every office in our association in order to help drum up support for that. And fortunately, we were able to succeed.
I do have some ones that would be funny, but I'm sure you'd edit them out, so I'll just not tell you.
I love a lot about this association.
I love the fact that you guys are always accessible. RAYAC always has our members' backs, and they are far and above one of the best associations out there.
Oh, the one thing I really love about RAYAC is our member benefits. I think we have some of the best ones, especially the new one that we have, Forewarn, which I just signed up for yesterday. I'm very excited to actually get to use it.
Move forward with any transaction, there's always someone to call. We've got a solicitor that has the legal experience that we need and the legal, basically, knowledge if we run into a situation where we really don't know what direction to head.
The thing I love about this association is the family feel to it. When you are in the association in this area, you can take for granted the relationships. You can take for granted how quickly you can make a phone call and get an answer. The partnerships, the friendships, you really take that full advantage. It wasn't until I stepped outside of the RAYAC footprint and worked in different areas that I really, really missed it. It's not like that in other areas.
I love the association because it really cares about the members. The members care about the association, the members care about the staff. So it's like, it's just a big family.
More than that probably is the education. I think we have great teachers and the classes are really good and really knowledgeable.
Things I love about this association, first and foremost, are members and the staff we have here. Everybody's very helpful, they're very enthusiastic, and it was once said by Waldo Emerson that nothing is accomplished without enthusiasm. And that's something our association does not lack at all. We've had enthusiasm since I've been in this business, and it's always helped us as agents. And when you help us as agents, you also go out and help the community and what they're trying to accomplish.
overall with our whole association that later down the road you'd see 2 or 3 other associations and it would be kind of become the norm. So I think that, you know, I tip my hat a lot to the staff at RAYAC for doing that, for keeping us out in front. I mean, we are an association. I think others are following behind us.
Our staff at RAYAC is bar none. The staff and the association brings you in and makes you feel like family. You do not get that everywhere, so we can be spoiled.
So I love this association because of Shauna and the staff. They are the hardest working and most caring people I have ever had the pleasure of working with. And I don't know if everybody realizes just how lucky we are to have all of them, because they really are a great staff who have our members' interest at the heart of everything they do.
The staff that we have had in the past and currently have been actually absolutely superb. They help with anything that they can. They actually get us through every day with their expertise, and without our EO and our staff, we would not be able to do what we do as realtors.
Our association has been blessed with that. We've been blessed with great leadership, and I think that both executive directors have dealt with the challenges of the ever-changing real estate market.
What I love about the association, I was told to say Shauna, and I love Shauna. I definitely do.
Well, that's one of the things that I miss probably more than anything, is we had wonderful staff. I still stay in touch with many of them.
One of my greatest joys at working with the association is working with the staff here. And in many regards, the staff members, they become your second family. And they are just fantastic. I can't say enough good things about them. I've been so fortunate to work with a lot of great people over my tenure here at the association.
My hope for the future is that we all maintain our professionalism and be people that are a reliable source to get them through their real estate transactions one day at a time, and to make it stress-free as possible.
I just wish that long after I'm gone, that what we as realtors will never lose is our consciousness of an understanding that the 2 words, people person, means and does matter most, not only to our successes of our industry, but also to our own personal happiness as well.
Our members, realtors as a whole, do not use technology to substitute connections and relationships. Technology is fantastic and it's great. It is what will help us get to the next levels, and we should always be open-minded in the technology that is coming. Definitely not letting technology be the substitute for the relationships we have with our clients and the public. If we lose that, that will make us irrelevant. So that is a point that I would just love that everybody, you know, remembers why we're here. We're here for the relationships, we're the connectors.
And if you don't have that personal touch, you know, you're going to lose it. So I think that's very important that we keep that personal touch.
I would like for us to begin to usher in the next generation of realtor. I remember when I first became a realtor, in my office, they used to call me a baby. And I'm like, I'm an adult with 3 children, but I'm a baby in the industry. And as I've been in the industry now, I'm going into my 15th year. I'm realizing that a lot of the realtors that were here when I joined, they're reaching retirement age. And so there's this kind of void, or this new group of realtors that are coming in, and I wish that we bring them in, train them up, accept them, but also allow them to bring some of the newer technologies and newer ways to doing business to the table as well. I think if we can do that, great, the industry is going to continue to be great. So,
continued professionalism is very important. And I used to work for a man named Sterling Klein, and Sterling was my mentor. And he used to say, Jim, he said, if you do business from here and not from here, he said, you'll be successful. And I hope everyone would take that advice and do business from the heart, truly try to help people, and continue our good reputation in the community.
Our association is one of the best, and I'm thankful every day that we have the staff and the people that we do to help to guide us day by day to be the best that we could be.
When you step outside of our footprint on a regional level and on a national level, our little small association is very well respected. We're the model in some instances, and I didn't know that before I became president. But when you step out and you're on committees and you're on the national level and you're giving your input and it's respected and received, you're like, wow, like this little association really has something going. So that's what I love about the association.
What I think makes this association so great is its people. You are going, in this industry, there are just so many wonderfully caring, passionate, concerned members of this association, and that's what makes us who we are. That's what makes us so great, is our people and our members, because I know that they care. I know they're passionate about what they do, and I know that they are true believers that York and Adams counties is one of the greatest places to live, work, play, and learn.
After decades of advocacy, countless continuing education courses, and thousands of realtors walking through the doors of RAYAC, 100 years later, we are still here, helping you welcome others home. From here, we will continue to grow our member base, plant our roots, and build our foundation. The possibilities are endless for us all. We stand 100 years strong on the shoulders of those who brought us this far. If our history has proven anything to us, it is that we are the future. Cheers to 100 years.